Hi, everybody. My name is James Patrick Herman. I'm a contributor to Variety, and it's my pleasure to welcome the creator of Florida Girls, Laura Chinn. And we also have her co-star, Patty Guggenheim. Thank you both for being here tonight.
We also have a surprise guest who is back there who's going to come up here and join us. And I might just either wait for her chair to come or just announce her. Kat Coiro's here. She directed both of those episodes. Woo! You can just sit on the edge of the stage. I have a feeling you're going to get a chair very soon.
Maybe a mic too.
And maybe a mic, or I'll share with you.
So this show, which I love, struck me as like the anti-Sex and the City. These girls have never heard of Manolo Blahnik.
No,
Would you please discuss that idea?
It's funny, when I was pitching this show, I said it's like Sex in the City, but the sex is gross and there is no city. So it's kind of, I agree. It's definitely not that show.
But they still drink a lot and make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess as do most people. I was a huge fan of Sex in the City, but I think like growing up, we didn't really have like a show that we could relate to because we grew up in a different way than like the cast of Friends and, you know, Sex in the City. So it was always like a goal of mine to be able to tell stories that like I myself in that age and in that income bracket could have related to, and then my friends could have as well.
So this type of comedy, I also feel, is the type of comedy that would traditionally star like 4 male characters, and therefore it feels kind of groundbreaking to me. Would you talk about that?
In the script, when I wrote this pilot, I described each girl as a famous male actor, just to try to get people to understand, like, women can be funny too, and like Flawed, and I think you were Matthew McConaughey, and I was Jason Bateman, and Laci Mosley was Jamie Foxx, and Caitlin was Danny McBride. So I put them in parentheses, and I was like, just try to get people to like think outside of what like women are normally. And I think it helped. I think people would read it. After I did that, people read it, and they were like, oh, I see. So they're like funny, you know? I was like, yeah, like men are.
So this is still a new concept in Hollywood that women are funny.
No, I think it's gotten much better. But I think that I don't think it's like equal yet, but I think it's gotten much better. I think women have so many more opportunities now than they did even like 5 years ago to be funny.
Talk to me about your 2 co-stars who aren't here today and the characters they play on the show.
Do you want to do one of them and I'll do one of them?
Sure and hi. Yeah. I'm here also and sure and hi.
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah, go.
Okay, I'll start. I'll describe Caitlin. So
Not Jamie Foxx.
Caitlin is Danny McBride, but she's not Danny McBride. She's like a smoking hot model. Caitlin is Melanie Field, and Melanie Field is currently actually shooting a show in Budapest right now, so she can't be here. She's doing The Alienist with Dakota Fanning. Ooh, very exciting. She's amazing. Do you want me to talk about her or her character? So Caitlin is like, she's just very similar to a lot of girls I grew up with, like sort of like tough because they have to be, you know. We all grew up in real life. None of us had dads. That was like the thing we all had in common, was that none of us had dads in our house. So we were all kind of like these like tough by necessity, kind of like little scrappy street kids. And Caitlin is based on like a lot of girls I knew that were just like kind of protected their heart and protected their sensitivity. But were like, I think of her, if she was an animal, she'd be a pit bull. You know, she's like super loyal, but if you fuck with her, she'll like rip your face off. And if you fuck with her family, i.e. like the other girls, she will kill you. And that's how she shows her love.
And Laci Mosley is fantastic. She is shooting Better Call Saul right now.
Ooh. I love that we're like advertising other shows.
I know, yeah. She plays Jayla, who is a fox, right? That's her animal.
She's
Jamie
what did
Foxx,
we say? A cat.
Oh, she's like a cat.
She's like a cat.
Yeah. And Jamie Foxx rolled into one. She is like so materialistic, but wants those Manolos. She's probably the one that knows what Manolos are.
She knows what Manolos are, but she owns like Mabolos or something.
Exactly. And she is just like this sparkling gem. She wants to be like,
she's like the hot one.
she's so hot. She wants to like find the richest guy in town and, and she wants
Make love to him?
She
Is
wants
that what
to
you were gonna
make
say?
sweet, sweet love to him for his hot, hot cash. And she's just really fun and very special. They're all very special.
I sort of thought when in breaking down these 4 girls, I was like, if they all combined were one person, they would be like a very like functioning member of society. But since they're 4 people, it's like a mess. And I would say that like Jayla is like the ego, and Caitlin is like the courage and the bravery and like the bulldog, and Erica, and Erica's like the sneaky one who like gets things done, at all costs. And I think that my character is like the one with like hope and like puts effort and tries. So I think if you combined all of them, they could be like a hotel manager, something fun like that.
You're the glue, though. Shelby's the glue.
I'll be the glue.
Yeah, you're the glue. Yeah, hot glue. Yeah.
I love that the director is here, because one point I wanted to address is that this is a female-centered film, or I'm sorry, TV show, both in front of and behind the camera.
Thank you for calling it a film.
It's very cinematic. So talk to me a little bit about how that's different from the past shows that you've worked on that were not necessarily like female-centered in front of and behind the camera.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've only ever worked for male showrunners. I worked for one woman showrunner, and they fired her partway through and hired a man. No fault of her own. But so, yeah, I typically have written, I think it's like catching up and changing, but I think most showrunners are, very male, and most directors are very male. It was important to me to find a female director, especially for the pilot. But I also just wanted like a really good director. So Kat has a vagina, but she's also really good. So when you can find a good and a vagina, it's like, woo! And a good vagina. Should I keep talking about your vagina? No, but Kat worked on the Mick. That's how I initially knew Kat, as I wrote on a show called The Mick. And that's how I met Kat. And Kat's from Florida, or spent time in Florida, and from Miami?
Yes, spent some time in some trailer parks in Key Largo in middle school. Right, Mom and Dad?
Are
They're here.
Yay!
Hey, we love you.
No, it was really exciting when I read the script, exactly what you said, to see something that was so outside of the box of what's usually portrayed on television. And yes, I had some experiences that might have lined up a little bit.
With those Florida experiences?
A little bit.
And Kat was like very into like the look of it in terms of like making it feel like bright and colorful and hot and saturated, and like that I myself and then my executive producer who was like running the show with me, we didn't really know much about like directing or photography, and Kat brought so much of that into it, and the tone and kind of the look of the episodes as they continue on.
What challenges did you face as a director? For instance, there's one there's a girl fight. Yeah. That I imagine would be challenging to
Remember
film.
that? Do you remember that?
I had a little PTSD watching it. I mean, look, this show was scrappy and fast and furious. And I would say that our biggest challenge was the sun setting, because we had these incredibly short days. And that fight, for example, happened right as the sun was setting. And there's no leeway when you're out in the hot southern sun. It's bright and then it's not. And we were very constrained for time, but at the same time, I think it brought an immediacy to everything. And so that scene that you bring up was shot very, very quickly. But I think that urgency kind of comes through and brings an energy and a realness to it. It was a very real fight, is what I'm saying.
We were fighting with the sun as we were fighting each other.
Did you do your own stunts?
You did in that fight.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
I guess I did too. I got
You
punched
did too,
and
yeah.
I fell down. Yeah,
we did.
We didn't have doubles.
We did, no.
Yeah, we were in Savannah, Georgia, so they were like, there are 2 stunt women here, and they're both here with you guys, and that's all you get. So yeah, we did a lot. You did a lot. She got a tetanus
Almost got
shot.
a concussion.
Yeah, you got hurt.
I did. Jumping over that fence, I got a tetanus shot.
We told her not to jump over that fence, by the way.
Had to jump over
she
that
had to jump over the
fence.
fence. It looked really good. I was happy later, but we were very safe and told her not to do that.
Yeah, I cut to a doctor giving me a tetanus shot in my butt. That was the first week, so that started it off.
Since you did bring up filming in Georgia, I hope there is a season 2. If you do get a season 2, how do you feel about filming there again now that there's an abortion law?
Not great. Yeah, not great. I mean, it was like all these texts were happening over the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks, being like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But I'm kind of like, let's get a season 2 first and then worry about like where we film it. Because that's like obviously like rich people problems to have. But we're talking about different options. My dream of all dreams is to shoot in Florida. So if something forced us to shoot in Florida, I would not be upset. Georgia has obviously an incredible tax credit, which, this is like a low budget show with a big cast. And like in order to be able to afford to shoot it, Georgia helped a ton. But that bill is not good for anybody. No.
Fan of the bill.
Not a fan. And Kat's being quiet, so maybe she is a fan of the bill.
Huge fan of the bill.
Let's have the director's perspective on
not.
this. Let's have the director's perspective on this.
What's your perspective on this abortion bill? You
Really?
pro or
No
you
more.
I oppose it completely and think if there's a season 2 that we should shoot in Florida, in Clearwater.
Yes, yes.
So you both have backgrounds in improv. How has that proven valuable to you as actresses?
All of the way. I think that I don't know. It's
I mean, I can speak to it, having worked with you guys. Although we were quick and scrappy, like I said, we did have this luxury of rehearsing a little bit. And we got to kind of get together and run through things and find things. And every person in this cast brought their own voice to these characters. And the rehearsals were so amazing because we knew when we were on the set and we had, 45 minutes to shoot a scene that we weren't going to be able to do a lot of improv. But because of the rehearsals, everyone was able to lend their voice and change lines and pitch jokes. And I think part of why the characters come across as so individual is because of every single person in the cast really having a strong voice, a strong sense of comedy, and it was really cool that we were able to do that.
I vehemently agree, and I think like every time, like, because we would like write stuff for the characters and create stuff for the characters, but each actress like brought so much extra stuff and improvising on set or rehearsal or just ideas and just talking or just the way that they would deliver of like the way this one delivers like a straight line and you're like, what are you doing? And it's like amazing and it makes everything funnier and magical and
yeah, everyone really put their own like individual voice into things, which I think comes from training with improv. You're creating your own moments, you're creating your own characters on stage constantly. So with a script that's so funny already, you're like, oh, I just get to play more in this. And I think we all have experience in improv and theater. So like it kind of felt like we would have like 2 takes sometimes or something, sometimes 1. We were like, okay, we've rehearsed this one time. We know where we're going. My cup goes here. And everything was just like, because we came from a theater background where you get like 1 try in front of an audience, we could kind of make it work.
And Patty's specifically theater background, she's a groundling. And like the character that when she auditioned, like her character, I felt I was the most worried about. It was the least fleshed out in my mind. And being a groundling, Patty like created a character. Like she like read the breakdown, read the sides, and then created a character that when I watched her tape, I was like, oh my God, my work is done. It was like I didn't have to finishing that character because she finished it for me.
How did you feel? Did you feel comfortable about the nudity that your role required? I imagine that's something you didn't do on stage at the Groundlings.
Seeing it, I was like, that is a lot. That is a lot. That's so much more than I remember. Probably just because it's like, it just felt like we were naked the whole show.
We were.
It really, they'd be like, here's your wardrobe options. I was like, where is it? It was very skimpy. And our wardrobe woman is here. She's amazing, Melissa.
Yay. Hi.
Woo! Amazing. But really, like, it was sparse. We would have, like, our wardrobe in our little rooms, you know, and we would come and I'd be like, okay, it's a shell bra.
Shell
Today,
bra.
literally, it was just a shell bra because I'm going to be putting on my mermaid tail on top. It was just a
and
lot.
then you walk outside and it's 40 degrees. And
Yeah.
you're like, wow, this is real. But I
Yeah.
will say she wasn't really actually nude.
No.
one ever actually got nude except for the men. The men had raw penis on set.
Yes.
Closed set, raw
This
penis.
is a thing that she demands.
but none
on
of the
set.
women got naked.
She says all D's out.
All male actors, D's out. No, you can't make these
And-
jokes. I can't make these
We
jokes.
can't?
No,
Sorry,
I don't co-sign
not
on this
us.
joke.
One of
Hashtag not us.
one of my favorite moments was at the water park, looking over at Laura in her bra, getting her shorts cut shorter while she rewrote a scene and gave directions to the crew. And I was like, this is progress.
Women can do it all. We can dress like whores and we can be showrunners at the
Yes.
same time.
How many times did you have to practice to get the mermaid tail like walk right? That looked very uncomfortable.
She was a
don't know.
natural.
I think, yeah, it just flowed through my body.
I'd like to know, how did you actually escape Florida?
It's funny. I've been asked this question recently, and I never really thought about it. Like, really, like what? Because my friends, and my girlfriends, and I, we all had a lot in common, and everybody had like things they wanted to do. And one of the girls really wanted to get to Orlando to be a makeup artist. That was like her dream. You know, did not happen. Another girl really wanted to be like an RN. Didn't happen. Oh, this is dark. But I really wanted to like act and write. And it was like something that was like my older sister was doing it. And I just was like, I really want to do it. She was acting a once upon a time. And it was just always calling to me. And when I think about like what was the thing that like made it, this is so sad what I'm about to say. The thing that made it so I had the opportunity to go follow my dreams and pursue my dreams was that my father paid child support. Like, it's so sad. It's so true though. Like my dad paid child support, and in my group of friends, I was like the lucky one. I was like the princess girl, because it was like your dad pays $400 a month to you, and a lot of girls' dads didn't, and it was like that extra support. I really do think made a huge difference in like my life and my trajectory. And like, I know that's like not a funny answer, but pay child support, dads, or don't abandon your kids. That's even better. I think that's even better.
Now, you talked about the Mick earlier. That show was described as a comedy about an unapologetic degenerate. And I just wondered, why are you drawn to degenerate characters?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think I just really like flawed people, and I think I've written on some shows, network shows, where the characters are just like kind of perfect, and it's really hard to make them
Especially
funny.
the female characters.
Exactly. I was about to say, like, almost every show I've written on, there's always like a female character, and it's always like, oh, we can't quite crack this one or make her funny, but it's like, well, it's because she's perfect. And it's not funny to be like, I won't name names, but I wrote on a show, there was a female character on the show, a lead, who we couldn't make funny, and it wasn't the actor's fault, it was like the character wasn't funny. So we went to the network and we were like, we gotta find something for her. Like, what if she like doesn't have, what if like, we know she's pretty and we know she's cute and really likable, but what if she just like can't make friends? Like, people just don't like her inherently. Like, she just doesn't have any friends. And the network was like, no, I think she's really popular. And we were like, okay. And then we were like, what if she's like clumsy? Like, could she just be like clumsy? And they're like, we kind of want her to be graceful. And you're like, so it's just not fun, really. And it's really, and truthfully, just from a lazy perspective, it's really hard to write comedy for perfect people. But when they're flawed and fucked up, like, it's just easier and more
tripping
relatable.
on acid and naked.
And naked and tripping on acid. It's more relatable and it's easier, I think, for comedy.
You also wrote on Grandfathered. How did you deal with when that show and the Mick were canceled? How did you deal with that? And what did you learn from those experiences, more importantly?
I've learned so much from every show I've worked on, and I think like you slowly turn into a sociopath in terms of like shows getting canceled. Because the first show I worked on that got canceled, I was like, this is it. Like I'm never gonna work again, and it was a good run, and I was really sad. And then the second show, and then the third show, and then I was like, oh, this is just it, you know. So it doesn't. Each time a show gets canceled, you're like, well, nice to meet you, show, and then you move on to the next one. But those shows were both amazing in terms of learning, because I was still like grandfathered. I was a very new writer. I had so much to learn, and I was so grateful. I worked with like a lot of very accomplished writers who had worked on amazing shows, and I learned a ton from that. And the Mick was the show where I like really like, because I had written at that point for like a couple of years, and I understood storytelling more. And the Mick, I feel like I really got to like blossom as a writer on that show, and I learned a ton from them too. And those are like It's Always Sunny guys, and they're all super funny and smart, and it was a really good learning opportunity.
And why do you feel it's important for a young actress to be able to create her own content these days?
I don't. I think I should be the only one that does it. No, gosh, I think it's just so, you get to tell different kinds of stories, you know? I think TV is becoming super democratic in an amazing way, and like everyone is getting to tell different stories. And, you know, 15, 20 years ago, it was like a very narrow group of people were writing television, and the shows were all from this kind of perspective. And I think it's the more people that are making shows, the more stories we're going to watch, and the more we're going to start to realize like we're all the fucking same. We're all the same. And all these different like kinds of people, whether it's races or genders or sexualities or you know, God bless, like economic diversity, like we're all the same. And I think the more these stories get out there and the more people are watching them, the more it just kind of brings people closer together in the long run.
I think you really walk a line well, you know, making a comedy about poor people in Florida. That's such an easy target, but you show their humanity. Talk to me about the challenges of writing those characters.
It wasn't challenging to me because I like genuinely love them, and I never wanted it to seem like I was making fun of them. I think the challenge came from people outside that were like, what is this show? What are you doing? Are we making fun of women? Are we making fun of poor women, or making fun of poor minority women? Like, it was like scary, you know? But I think it was getting people to trust me that I'm like, I am poor and I am diverse and I am a woman, and I am like, none of these stories are going to be told from a place of malice or me pointing a finger or making fun of them. It's more to bring a lightheartedness to their lifestyle so we can watch it and not feel like super sad and depressed for them, but also learn about like what that is to be an Erica. But it was definitely, that was a challenging thing, because I think it is scary, because nobody, you know, Pop, Lionsgate, nobody wanted to make fun of, you know, women or poor people. Like, that was nobody's goal, and so everybody was very careful, and we've been very careful about that. But it's a fine line.
Is there anything the network told you can't do?
No, they were like amazing. Like honestly, I'm trying to think.
Best.
Like, I don't think anything. They were really amazing, like creatively, just from the beginning to the end. And we were like, you know, they were like, we want you to make the show you want to make. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And then as like outlines rolled in, they were like, they had notes and thoughts and stuff, but it was always like to make it better, or to make it more clear, or like they were never like afraid to do something, or, you know, if they were confused, they just wanted it explained. It wasn't like, you can't do this, or that's too outrageous, or whatever. We got very, very lucky.
The show is autobiographical. How much of that, if any, really happened?
So many things. Yeah.
So many.
So many things. Like so many things.
I love that you use comedy to make cultural observations about media whitewashing and, you know, standards of beauty, especially with hair. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that stuff, and I think like with Jayla, like we really wanted to have like her be, you know, like treated as if she's like a black girl from a black neighborhood, and not like, oh, you just act like a white girl does, you know. Like, I wanted her to feel like she was from the neighborhoods that I grew up in, and like the black people that I grew up around. And so like, and Laci's from Texas, and like she's a fucking amazing comedian, and like we would have her come in and consult and give us her perspective, and like I really wanted it to feel, and her stories to feel like authentic to her experience and what it would be in that town and how people would treat her, and like the little moment with the Confederate flag. And like, I think those moments are like important to show like, this is what this girl is actually dealing with. This is what her life is. And like her friends who present as white are kind of oblivious to that experience, but her experience is different. And we have an episode, the one after this, that like deals specifically with race, and Caitlin ends up being very racist and offensive in the episode. But it was an important thing, I think, for us to talk about. And I'm half Black, and I know that I don't look it. And so I wanted to talk about that a lot as well. And yeah, it's all just kind of important stuff for me. And I grew up in a super racist town, and I grew up in a town where I was sort of like a spy for Black people. And like, you know, and white people are terrible. Like they're like, and you know, and maybe this has changed. This was like 10 years ago, but they're racist, you know, and like a lot of fucking people are racist. And I think everyone likes to pretend like they're not anymore, but they really are. And I know that because I'm in a room when someone says something horrible, and then I'm like, oh, my dad's actually Black. And they're like, I love Black people. And they like melt into their like racist chair, and it's fucking awful. But I think the more we talk about it, the more we can like get over it and stop hiding. Because I think what's worse to me than a racist is someone who's racist and ashamed of being racist. They like go home and are racist, and then they go out and go, I'm not racist, and you're like, yeah, you are. But I also really wanted to show Black and white female friendships, because I feel like that's not something that we see a lot. And I think that is a helpful thing if Black people and white people, Black women and white women can like join and be friends and realize how similar we all are, the better. So that was an important thing for me.
And those conversations between Caitlin and Jayla are so interesting, even as an audience member, just watching like people address things in a real way as friends do, without all the pretenses and artifices.
Yeah, because I used to get made fun of all the time growing up. Like my white friends would make fun of me, my Black friends would make fun of me for being white, and like my white friends will make fun of my Black friends. And like you'll be in a group of like close friends, and a white person will make a joke about how a Black person can't swim, and the Black person's like, excuse me, you know. And it's like, but we're all friends, so we can all talk that way. And like it's like offensive, and Caitlin's like really offensive and horrible, but Laci's also like, shut the fuck up, you know. It's like, I don't know, there's something about it to me that feels very like real, but it's like everyone's afraid to act that way or talk that way. So everyone's like, on TV, everyone's like, hello, I don't notice that you're different than me, and are you a woman? I didn't even notice. That kind of thing.
Would you talk to me a little bit about your experiences in Hollywood as a light-skinned biracial woman?
They're probably very similar to experiences in Hollywood as a white woman. I don't think that I can't even pretend or imagine to claim that I've had any kind of like struggle compared to somebody who has darker skin. But I think that you know, there's like diversity there in me, but I can walk down the street and nobody questions my whiteness, you know, or like I'm not going to get pulled over by the cops, you know, in the same way. And so that to me is like, I have as much privilege as a white person, and I'm aware of that. But I also like, I don't know, I also want to like tell stories about the other side of me, because it's like within me. But I don't claim to be like, I struggled as much as Laci, because like I didn't. And Laci tells me stories where I'm like, holy fuck, I don't even realize how privileged I am. Yeah.
Patty, tell me about your rise from Comedy Central intern to working actress.
Oh. It was a big old long time of things. Went into finance for a little bit. Yeah, took a big detour. Yeah, did a really fun internship at the Showbiz Show with David Spade, and that was just like a really fun intro into the world. And I was like, oh, I love it here. I love TV. And then they're like, okay, the season's done. We're going on hiatus. I was like, huh? It just ends and then people find new jobs? I hate it. I felt very, I didn't know how to handle it, so I did finance. So then I got into the Groundlings, started taking classes and loved it very much, character, improv stuff. And it just like drew me in big time. And then I just did Groundlings and 500 submissions of headshots in clear envelopes.
I did clear envelopes too.
Ooh,
Who here's done clear envelopes? Yeah.
That's like from the 90s. No,
we're all old. We all just showed how old we are, right?
Yeah, clear envelopes are a thing. And then just slowly started booking things.
And you acted and wrote on VH1's Barely Famous. What was that experience like?
Oh, that was a dream time. The Foster sisters are amazing. The show is a scripted it's a scripted show, but it's about these two like very privileged women, and they are just really hysterical. And so what? Yeah, what,
And we met on Aaron's pilot.
Oh yes,
Aaron Foster's pilot.
That's right. Kat directed Aaron's pilot,
and
Daddy Issues,
Patty was in it.
and I was in it.
And Patty was, whose girlfriend were you? You were someone cool's girlfriend.
Oh, Don Johnson.
Don
Johnson.
Johnson's girlfriend.
It's a little age difference. Yeah, Don Johnson.
But it was the same thing with that pilot. It was this tiny little role, and it was kind of it was funny, but it wasn't totally fleshed out. And she came in and read and brought an entire world with her.
Thanks.
I was going to ask you, I mean, we've seen you on many shows over the years, but, how did you get this part of a kleptomaniac mermaid and possible incest victim?
Well, not so much incest, thank God, but the klepto stuff really pulled from my own life. Unfortunately, that was a phase. Don't tell Bed Bath & Beyond. I took all their samples. Oh no, wait, what is it? Bath and Body Works. That's what it was. Bath and Body Works, you just go through with your bag that you already bought something at Gap, and then you go with all the samples. Okay. Or you just you take a backpack with you that has like a blown up bag in it, like a plastic bag, and then you go into Abercrombie and Fitch, you take the plastic bag down, you put all the clothes in the back. This is inappropriate.
I'm shocked. I feel like he was meaning how did you get the part?
Oh, okay.
But I never wanted you to
You
stop
see, I
doing
told
what you
her
were
not to
doing.
climb that fence. You see?
Okay, no, okay. So I got it wrong.
That was the best.
So
Very hard, very hard.
Wait, how did I get the part, or how did I get inspiration?
How did you get the part, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, self-tape.
It was a self-tape. Yeah. And she was the first audition tape we saw out of and we probably read 100 people at the end of this thing. And she was the first tape we saw, period. And we watched it, and another EP who's in the audience, he watched it and he was like, she's Erica. I'm done. I don't need to see anymore. And I was like, what? We haven't seen any other tapes. And every tape we watched, he was like, no, Patty was better. Patty was better. He was just dismissing everybody.
And what did you think?
And I was determined to find someone else. I was no, it can't be her. No, I was it was this bar was set. And also we then naively were like, oh, this is going to be the easiest thing to cast. We watched one tape and found Erica, but it ended up being not the case. But yeah, it was a self-tape, and she was amazing in it.
I think one of the descriptions, it was a really fun description of the character, which made it very easy for me. But it was I think the last line of it was this person's in your friend group and you're never really sure why. And I was like, okay, I can figure that out.
I would love to ask a couple of these great questions from the audience. The first one is, how do you take an idea for a pilot and turn it into a full series? I'm sure you have a short answer to that.
I don't know. How do you take an idea for a pilot and turn it into a full series? That's such a hard question, and it's it's funny because some people will earlier today I was having lunch with a friend of mine, and she's pitching a pilot, and the question is oh, but how do you see that lasting 4 or 5 years? But I'm I don't know. I see a lot of things could last 4 or 5 years. This show in particular, I think we found a good engine. I think that helps. I think that the engine of bettering yourself and oh, this person left our town. Should we change? I think giving yourself some kind of story engine in which you can tell multiple episodes off of is a helpful thing. And hopefully your pilot will have something in that that's tune in next week and there will be another blankety blank. I'm trying to think of an example of that.
The dynamics of the friendships could last forever. Yeah. And this is a show that no matter what they're doing, they relate to each other in a way that you sense it can change episode to episode, but the heart of these relationships is never going to change. And that to me is what gives something like this longevity, not just for the season, but for beyond that, because that's how you are with your friends. And as outrageous as this show is, at the core, it's about people who really like each other. And that was something we talked about a lot. Like, no matter how badly behaved they are, no matter what they do, they really like each other and they want to be around each other. And I think if you have that real connection, you have a pilot. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Kat was so good about being like, ooh, that's a little too harsh. Like if a character said something to somebody else, because these girls aren't like super nice to each other all the time, but Kat was really good about being like, that's like a little too not nice.
I was shocked all the time. I mean, I'm still shocked watching it. It was shocking. And I felt like my job was always to bring it down to they like each other and they want to be around each other. And it's not just their circumstances. And even if they, moved out of the trailer, they would still want to be with each other. And I think that's the root of this show.
And I think like Pam Brady says this, and she's like an amazing comedy writer, but she says that like all the great comedies are like loneliness cures. And if you think about like your favorite comedy, like the recipe that it should have is like, if it's The Office, it's like you feel less lonely when you're watching it because you're like, oh, that's like my office, or like I wish I could work at that office, or Friends, or Modern Family, or Cheers, or whatever it is. Like it makes you feel a little less lonely and you wish that you were a part of that group. So that's definitely something that we had in mind like throughout the whole process, was like, let's make it like these girls are poor and these girls get into trouble, but like, don't you kind of wish you could spend a weekend with them? Doesn't it seem fun? And don't they seem like they like each other? So that's definitely like an important thing, I think, if you're writing a comedy pilot, to make sure that it's not just like snarky people being mean, but there's still like a cure for loneliness somewhere in there.
That's a beautiful sentiment. And I think this is all we have time for, but it's a nice note to end on. What have the three of you learned from working with each other?
I could be with him all day, every day in a little trailer, and I'd love it.
We really were battling the elements in a way.
Did she mention it was a scrappy show? Did you say that?
But it was even beyond. It was like there was a hurricane bearing down upon us. There was weather that went from 120 degrees to 40 degrees, and everyone was wearing bikinis. And bugs.
My God, the bugs. Holy shit.
The bugs. Yeah, there was a lot. And there was something in it that was really beautiful. And when I left and went to all these other shows that where you weren't kind of fighting the elements, I missed it so much. And it was partly just to do with the magic. You ask how to get a pilot made. It's a lot to do with magic. And there was a magic with these guys that, as difficult as it can be to film on location in a smaller place than LA or New York, there's an urgency and immediacy that comes with that I miss them so much. I invited myself to this tonight because I miss them.
I think like my biggest takeaway from these two, and I guess from everyone in the show, was that like it doesn't have to be toxic. It can be loving, and it can be like soft, and it can be warm, and it can be like, dare I say, like feminine. But it can be like mothering and nurturing. And our, EP who co-ran the show with me is a dude, but he's like in touch with his emotional side and doesn't get angry. And I think like that was a takeaway from that experience, was like, it doesn't have to be no one has to yell. No one has to be a monster. And it can be stressful, and we can be up against the elements.
I mean, we would look at each other like the wind just whipping our hair, and we would all honestly kind of take a breath and go, it's television. We can get through this. And we all have to be on the same team. And television is so collaborative. And it was really an amazing group of people in that way. There was never a moment where we lost it. Or if we did, we went deep into the woods. Alone.
Yeah, every once in a while you would see someone crying in the woods, and you'd be like, okay, they're going through it.
Taking their moment.
They'll be
back. It's fine.
But it was so important to keep the positivity and the trust. And, these guys are putting themselves out there in such a huge way. Stunts and the costumes, like you said, barely there. And that is not easy. And so it was really important to keep a lot of positivity. And I think we all loved what we were doing so much that it was never hard. And that was my big takeaway. This show was so special in that way. It was really great.
I think oh, please go.
No, I was just gonna say, you can't really like help but live in the moment and those kind of things where you have one, you know, your guys are, we were all just like so together and so focused, and that was, and so positive, and it was so fun. I loved it.
And that comes from the top.
I just wanted everyone to compliment me. I was just waiting for you guys to compliment me.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it was wonderful.
It's a great way to end. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, I'm such